All right, guys, welcome back. Gold and silver. Weird movements today, but can be explained. I'll explain it shortly, but gold and silver were down earlier today and they're bouncing right back. Today, we're also going to be talking about another commodity and a miner that I have actually added to my portfolio, and I'll give you my reasoning as to why. That's all coming up. So let's get started with gold and silver. Now, recently, we've been seeing some risk on movement, and it's just continuing, guys. The US 10-year Treasury note yield has risen even more so. We're getting close to 1.3% with the US 10-year Treasury note yield. Again, that's pretty impressive given the fact that we haven't been this high since early last year in 2020, back in March, I believe. You can go back to the year chart and you'll see just how far we've come. And this is all when you're considering everything when it comes to gold and silver. Obviously, this has definitely hurt gold's movement, but this has actually helped silver's movement. Let's take a look and scroll down. Here we have silver right now making its ascent. Actually, you can't really see that. Let me move it over. Silver is making its ascent. Gold, on the other hand, is really struggling. Now, I will also mention that I actually added some GLD to my portfolio as well. Now, I do have physical gold, I have physical silver, but I wanted to add some GLD to my portfolio, and I did so today as prices started to come down. And the reason why is because I expect the DXY to continue to come down. Now today it did shoot back up a little bit, and I have a couple of plays that are essentially bearish on the dollar. And that is within my portfolio. I have a bearish dollar ETF that I have, ticker symbol UDN, and I have some commodities that I'm playing off of, and I have gold in there, which will be a beneficiary of the DXY heading down. And I also have a mining company that I'll talk about very soon. But around this time, 8:30 or so, you started to see the dollar rise, and that was around the time that you saw gold and silver start to come down in price, as you see here. And one of the reasons why is because we had a dramatic move here from the Empire State Manufacturing Index. It was actually expected that we would get a forecast of 6, and we actually got 12.1. According to Trading Economics, it is the highest reading in 5 months, as new orders increased 10.8 versus 6.6, and shipments edged higher 4 versus 7.3. Also, delivery times lengthened 9.1 versus 5.5, and inventories grew 6.5 versus negative 0.7. Employment levels and the average work week both increased. Input prices rose at the fastest clip in nearly a decade. Now let's stop there. Input prices rose. Again, when people say, hey, where's the inflation? You can find inflation, you just have to look for it in the right places. And input prices increased here for the Empire State Manufacturing Index. Selling prices increased significantly as well. And we're going to talk more about that too relative to this miner. But this is one of the reasons why gold and silver struggled today after this announcement. Now, gold and silver aren't the only metals on the block. And I've been talking a lot about the Aussie recently. And as you can see here, over the last year, the Aussie has been gaining on the dollar over the last 12 months ending today, pretty much. And one of the things about the Aussie is that they are tied to, and I remember I had somebody in my comments mention that it's more so tied to iron ore and other commodities, which is great when you consider it versus the dollar. and it's a nice rival for the dollar when the dollar decreases and commodities increase in price. So what miner am I looking at? Well, I'm looking at BHP Billiton, and it's actually a company based out of Australia. And funny enough, they had their earnings yesterday on President's Day. So even though, the US, our markets were closed, Australia, they operate a little bit differently, obviously. And the public companies within the United States have to report their earnings 4 times a year, whereas in Australia, they only have to do it twice a year. So BHP released their earnings for half of 2020 yesterday, and they performed pretty well by some measures. And the funny thing is, I was analyzing these guys when their price was around $70 a share, and today literally jumped up 7.81%. It's right now at 75.88, and I actually added these guys right around the 74-ish dollar region, and I actually expect them to there's a target for them to hit around the lower 80s, and that's probably as long as I'll hold on to them, and I'll give you my reasoning as to why. But BHP, as you can see here, they primarily focus on copper, they focus on iron ore, and they focus on other commodities in their mining. And obviously one of their major customers is China. And as you guys know, China's manufacturing has actually been performing pretty decently in the last 12 months. They've been kind of on a little bit of a slump here. This is actually their private sector, China's Caixin Manufacturing PMI. And the NBS, this is their public sector, has also been coming down a little bit, but still it's been on the upswing here. So here is actually a spreadsheet that I made. That I actually found, and I just added some new information here so I can compare some companies. So you can probably find this on the internet somewhere, but this is the name that you can maybe search in to put into Google to find your own version of this, and you can just plug in the numbers yourself. Now you can compare companies within the same sector here, and this is what this is. This is a public company comparison, and I wanted to compare about 4 to 5, I have about 4 here, companies to Southern Copper Corporation. Many of you guys know I actually did a video on Southern Copper Corporation and how I like them, but I sold my shares of them maybe a couple of weeks back, and I wanted to get back into the mining game, but I wanted to do it with some more research involved. So not only did I want to take a look at share prices and everything like that, not only did I want to have a play on copper and other commodities, but I wanted to compare them and get the best deal out of the sector. So I compared them with Rio Tinto, BHP Billiton, Freeport, First Quantum, and there are plenty of other ones you can compare them to, but these are just some of the ones that I picked. And out of all of them, I really liked what I found with BHP Billiton. Now, I looked at the enterprise multiple for all of these companies, including Southern Copper Corporation. And out of all of them, I found that BHP Billiton's enterprise multiple was actually lower than the industry standard, meaning that it was actually undervalued in comparison to where it was trading. And at that moment, it was trading at $70.38, as you can see here. And this morning, it jumped up to, as you can see right now, $75.77. Obviously, that came after a pretty nice catalyst from their earnings. And if you swing all the way over here, based on all the information and the inputs that I put in, out of all of them, they're the only company here that I've compared that has not only a positive projected revenue growth, but also a positive projected EBITDA growth as well. And the last 12 months, their EBITDA margin outperformed the median here. So did their FY 2018 numbers outperformed the median, and their FY 2019 outperformed the median. Some of these companies underperformed, as you can see. So I really liked BHP Billiton. Not only that, they're one of the larger companies in Australia. I also believe next to Rio Tinto. But I just didn't want to get into Rio Tinto. It just seemed a little bit overpriced for where I was comfortable in adding, and as far as adding it to my portfolio. But I hear good things about Rio Tinto as well, but I decided to go with BHP Billiton. Now, also as a head check as well, I wanted to look at where other analysts viewed this company. Now, this comes from Zacks Equity Research. They wrote this article here, and let's see if I can move this here for you guys. And they actually had a pretty good analysis of this company, which, you know, pretty much fell in line with my view of them. A lot of analysts seem pretty happy with this company, as you can see here. With their write-up, they, you know, mentioned that, you know, they have projects under development in petroleum, copper, iron ore. I can never pronounce this word, potash, which will contribute to growth in the long run. Obviously, we know that electronics benefit from a lot of this stuff. Iron ore, you know, we all know that steel comes from iron ore, so on and so forth. And one of their big customers is China, which is good. This article is written in December, but take a look here. Price performance. BHP shares have gained 18.9% over the past 3 months compared to the industry's rally of 12.1%. So a nice, good outperformance. Underpriced, BHP has a trailing enterprise multiple of 5.14, which is lower than the industry average of 17.55. Now, again, this was written in December of 2020, but as far as the EV over EBITDA ratio that I came up with, it was still below 17.55. So still, it was underpriced. So that was another big reason why I wanted to add them to my portfolio, because they were underpriced. And, you know, just given the fact that, you know, the dollar is poised to continue to go down relative to currencies such as the Aussie, and just in general with the expectation of more stimulus coming into the system, that's one of the big stories in the news right now here in the US. Biden starting to talk more about the stimulus package. We should see BHP, commodities, even gold, that's also why I got some GLD, increase in price. So guys, let me know what you think about the start of this week. BHP, as far as a company, I know we have a lot of Australians who watch the channel, so let me know what you guys think about this company. You guys would know much more than I do because I don't live in Australia. And thanks again for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe if you're new. It's Black Bullion for goldandsilvertoday.com.